Let me ask you this on this topic. Two follow-up questions on this. You talk about, when you sit down with Xi, you're going to tell Xi, here's what you do no matter what, or else, or Putin, when I, sit with Putin, here's what's going to. These are some heavyweight people to sit with where you have to be firm yet confident to deliver and, make sure they know that you're being serious about your, whatever declaration it is you're giving to them. Who are some of the most biggest heavyweights you've ever sat with that you've had to negotiate deals with? And, in the business of coming up, can you name some names, some intimidating conversations you've had to build a $9 billion company that you built?
Oh, Patrick Bet-David scheduling this town hall. That was a big, heavy guy. No, I've sat across the table from MBS. I've been to the palace downstairs in Saudi Arabia. He's a guy my age. Talk about too young. I don't agree with a lot of what he's doing, but say what you will, he's a young guy who's taken the reins and taken the nation in a direction with a clear vision. I was sat across the table from many of the wealthiest people in the world. These aren't guys who got to where they are by playing soft, and I didn't get to where I am by playing soft either. So I'm ready for the challenge. I think that these guys, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, like some of the older guys in both parties in our side of the pond, they're off the top of their game. I think their best days are behind them.
You think so?
I think so, absolutely. I think so. I think there's some insecurities there.
What makes you say that?
Well, Putin is not well. Xi Jinping is now the different guy than he was. This is a guy who had, people who rise. You don't get to that position without having some kind of chip on your shoulder, right? I don't know how much, most Americans don't know a lot about his story. I was curious about it. You got to know the man you're going to face off with. So I was actually an exchange student in China. I've been watching this man's rise for a long time. His father was actually exploited by Mao Zedong. Right? He was an official in the government, but what Mao Zedong did is he unleashed the cultural revolution of young people in China that went after the old guard in the Communist Party. So his dad was abused, and Xi Jinping was taken out with him, and there were instances where he's on a stage, had to wear an embarrassing tin hat, and have kids throw things at him. This is some psychologically scarring stuff, some weird happenings in a kid's upbringing. And then now you see the guy wearing the Mao Zedong suit. Right? He's trying to imitate the guy who actually humiliated and in some ways medically harmed his father, put him through a psychologically torturous youth. There's some psychologically twisted stuff going on there, but there are also some deep-seated insecurities. Right? His ego is his main enemy. He was willing to put himself in a weaker position in substance to just hold on to that unprecedented third term of power. Watch what happened with Hu Jintao in that meeting where he took over that unprecedented third term. He had Hu Jintao literally, you remember this video? Literally uncomfortably lifted out of his seat. And so, do I understand the people I'm facing off with? Yes, I do. Are they weak? Yes, they are. And I think the difference with me is, look, I'm an open book. I got nothing to hide. We started this campaign. What do we do? Everybody's always about playing the game, especially wealthy people running for president. How are you going to delay and game the tax returns? We just put them out in the first few weeks in the campaign. Open book. Have at it. They're caused some headaches for me. People ask the New York Times, ask this question or that question. Fine. We answered it. You got nothing to hide. And that's the approach I'm going to take to international relations, where I'm going to be very honest with people. I'm going to abandon the lie that I think we've told in the U.S. at times, that we're somehow a moral arbiter of what happens in the world. What I'm going to say is the truth. My job as U.S. president is to advance the interests of the homeland, to actually take care of American citizens. I have a moral obligation to my fellow citizens to take care of them and their interests first. And so when I end the war in Ukraine and I'm negotiating with Putin, a deal that pulls him out of his alliance with China, which in turn weakens China from being in a position going after Taiwan, say what you will. I don't trust Putin, he doesn't trust me, but we're going to know that we each trust each other to follow our self-interest. And we can have a clearer negotiation than if I'm saying that, this is about the fight for democracy in some random nation that banned 11 opposition parties and consolidated state media into one arm, when we don't care beans about somebody invading another country in Africa. No, it doesn't make sense. But if you say that, no, I'm in this to just advance American interests, then two parties can reach a deal that makes sense for both parties. And when I make a deal, Patrick, I'm in the habit of being on the winning side of that trade, and that's exactly what I'm going to do when I'm negotiating trade deals and negotiating peace settlements on behalf of the United States.
Fair enough. Do you have a relationship with Modi by any chance? I think India is going to play a very important role.
Yeah.
They showed the level of courage they have by banning 100 apps from China, something America wouldn't even do with TikTok.
Yeah.
So is there any relationship you have with Modi?
I don't know him yet.
Okay,
but
got it.
You know, I did go in. I happened to be addressing Congress the morning before he came for his joint session, so I stuck around. One of the people had me as their guest, and so I stuck around and heard his address. I've been impressed by him as a leader. At the same time, I think that India is going to have to step it up a little bit. They haven't really met the full level of military commitments that I'd like to see. A little waffly on the trade relationship, and you know, understandably, the U.S. has also been a little bit less reliable than necessary. So I want to shore that up. If you want to think about a conflict situation with Taiwan, what people forget is the Indian Ocean is where the Middle Eastern oil supplies run through to get to China. And so if India is actually a reliable partner, that is a further deterrent to Xi Jinping even going after Taiwan. And I think I have probably the clearest vision of anybody in this race in either party, Patrick, of how to deter China from going after Taiwan while avoiding war over that island. And I think it's going to be the most important thing the next president does from the standpoint of foreign policy.
I will say, whether you are the president, you're the candidate, or somebody else is, the fact that your background, who you are, what you've done, India is going to play a very important role. I think you're going to need to be a prominent voice and influence the next 4, 8, 12 years. Again, that's my opinion.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.